Hello, this is What's It All About, and in this video we're going to be looking at a brief comparison between two Etiqus watches. In case you don't know Etiqus, they're watches for people who play golf and enjoy golf, as you can tell by the dial. So this comparison is between their one of their first models, the Sport Pro, which I reviewed a number of months back, and their very latest model, which is the Sport Tour. And as you can see, it's pretty much exactly the same as the Sport Pro, except for a little bit smaller and a couple of very minor detail changes. So let's think about the specs between the two. So first of all, the price. The Sport Pro on the left will set you back £299, whereas the Sport Tour is a little bit cheaper, £20 cheaper at £279. So £20 difference. So what is the difference then apart from the price? Well, the size mainly. The Sport Pro comes in at 46mm in diameter, whereas the Sport Tour is 42mm, so more of a reasonable size that we'd come to expect. Height-wise, the Sport Pro on the left is about 13mm tall, whereas the Sport Tour it's 10.5 on the right. And then lug to lug, the Sport Pro is 53.5mm lug to lug, whereas the Sport Tour it's 49mm lug to lug. Weight-wise, because there's a lot extra steel, the Sport Pro obviously weighs in heavier, so this is 180 grams and this is 155 grams, and that's with me taking approximately 4 links out, so 2 either side, so it can fit my wrist. The only other specs to mention are they both have a Swiss-made movement, so they're the same in that respect. They're both rated at 100 meters, water resistant, so they're the same in that respect as well. And then finally, the strap width is different. So the Sport Pro we have a 24mm lug to lug, and then on the Sport Tour we have a 22mm lug to lug. So if I just pop them on, one on each hand, I'll be able to just have a very brief comparison that way. If I try and get both of my hands in shot here. So we can see there that the style hasn't changed a great deal, except for the Sport Tour on my right hand is a little bit softer. It's not quite as aggressive as the Sport Pro. I think that's mainly thanks to the difference in design of the bracelet. I personally really like the design on the Sport Pro. I think it's really, quite angular, quite different, very chunky as well, and I love really heavy duty chunky bracelets. Whereas on the Sport Tour, it is definitely more of a classic design. Reminds me of maybe an Omega or a Tag Carrera, with these two polished sections and the rest being brushed. The buckle is more or less almost the same, except for this is completely brushed on Sport Pro, whereas we have a polished band there. And we do have other sections as well, which is different. So if I just pop them off again. So we'll come to the dial in a second, but if we look at the case back, we'll notice that they're pretty much exactly the same, the case back. So we have, this is a Sport Pro, so it's brushed in a circular pattern with Etiqus, the spirit of the game, and some other details. And then if we just look at the Sport Tour, again, pretty much exactly the same in that respects. We have this polished band, which is present on both of them as well. Interestingly, considering the Sport Tour is aimed at a more, a smart market, the case is fully polished, whereas on the Sport Pro we actually have, it's fully brushed on the Sport Tour, whereas on the Sport Pro we have polished sides. And I honestly would have probably thought the Sport Tour would be more of a polished kind of design, because it's aimed at a slightly smarter look. So that's a little bit surprising, but it's not really an issue or a problem or anything. Just thought it was worth mentioning. The crown, as you can see, is different. I do very much like the crown on the Sport Pro, the way it has this little indent here for you to get a good grip on it, whereas on the Sport Tour it's more of a traditional shape, quite standard. Neither of them are signed on the end either, so quite plain in that respect, but you know, it works perfectly fine. So this is more or less, apart from the ring around the case back, the only polished bit, and the surround of the bezel, polished bit of the case. So just looking at the bezel, oh, if I can get it in focus, both more or less exactly the same. It's just the size that's different. So if you haven't, you know, if you don't know anything about the Butler bezel, named after Mr. Butler, the owner and creator of Etiqus, what you do is you set your tee off time. So say I'm teeing off now at about 8 minutes to 3. By the time I should be finishing my first hole, it should be within this window here. Within my second hole, should be finishing within this window here. So by at least by 20 past 3, if I'm any good, I should be finishing my second hole. So far, and so forth. So by 2:30, I should be finishing my third hole. And basically, this runs off the belief that you should really be doing 18 holes in 4 hours. So that's how this is calculated. So it's, it's quite a clever way of doing it. And it's by no means completely accurate, because some holes are longer than other. It's just more of a way of keeping an idea of how you're doing on your round, basically. So a nice little thought and a nice touch, something a little bit different to your standard bezels as well. So the bezel on the Sport Pro is obviously a lot chunkier to match the size of the case, but they're both very smooth to use and easy to use as well. So finally then, just looking at the dials. So the main differences are really the hands, the minute and the hour hands, and then on the Sport Pro on the left we have a rehout coming up from the dial to the crystal, whereas on the Sport Tour on the right we don't. It's all completely flat. From a visual perspective, I personally prefer the Sport Tour. When I first opened up the watch box, I was really impressed actually, because I don't know if it's because the anti-reflective coating on the sapphire crystal is a little bit better. You can see the difference. It seems on the right, I mean, you can see exactly the same reflections, but on the right it's a little bit duller. So it seems to be the anti-reflective coating maybe has been improved a little bit. So that's good. But it really struck me as being an incredibly clear crystal, and the dial was, really radiant. So I was really impressed with the Sport Tour as soon as I opened it up. And I prefer the shape of the hands, really, the sword hands, rather than these slightly more angular hands on the Sport Pro. Obviously, the second hand is the same. It's the classic red flag found on the Masters tournament logo. We have the hour markers, which are the same on both sides, and we have a very slight variation in the date window. So on the Sport Pro we have a nice little polished steel surround to it, whereas on the Sport Tour it's actually just painted, which in a way, it's a little bit of a shame, because I love seeing physical borders around date windows, but maybe they decided against it because it would be too busy, because it was a smaller dial. So apart from that, everything else seems to be very similar. The logo is the same. We have golf linksometer, pace of play at the bottom, and then Swiss movement at the foot of the dial. And then apart from those things, obviously, as I mentioned before, the rehout on the minute track in the rehout on the Sport Pro, and not a rehout on the Sport Tour. Okay, so that was a brief comparison between the two. If I was to pick one, it's a bit of a... On the Sport Pro Plus, I really like the bracelet. It's one of the best bracelets I've seen on a watch costing this much. Whereas the Sport Tour, I personally prefer the design of the dial, and it's because it's 42mm in diameter. I think it's a little bit more friendly to wear. So in that respect, I would probably pick the Sport Tour if I was to select the two. But if you're quite a golfer with big arms and you can handle the size of the Sport Pro, then to be honest, either one is a good choice. They're both very well made for the money. So, and if you like golf and you love watches as well, then it's a very good very good watch option to purchase. So there we go. This was the Etiqus Sport Pro and the Etiqus Sport Tour, and that's what it's all about.